really important. There is a lot of competition there. You see also the result, a lot of draw. So means that really competitive final period of the season, and I think we are ready. It's true that we didn't have a good moment in the last months, but now we are much better. We have a lot of players availables, and at least almost all the squad, apart Doucouré and Gabaman out, but the other are in good condition, and so I think that we are ready to fight for this final part of the season.
Well, what a great way to start off this Premier League weekend. It should be a brilliant match, Arsenal against Everton. They've both lost a little bit of ground in terms of their race for European places. Do you still give them a chance of getting into the Europa League, though, John?
Yes, because, of course, they're both very good teams. And I think that apart from Manchester City, everyone has been so inconsistent that even teams who are 6th and 7th and even 8th feel that they can get up there, not because they may put a run together, but because everyone's being inconsistent. So those two teams, I mean, Everton will still have hopes of getting into the top 4, as my brother-in-law will tell you, because Evertonians are ever hopeful. But for Arsenal, I would think that, you know, Europa League is something that's well within their reach.
Everton have missed so many chances, Jason, haven't they, this season, to try and be in that top 4. You look at Chelsea, look at West Ham, look at Spurs. They have missed so many opportunities.
They're quite an infuriating team, aren't they, actually? I mean, you say that when they have the opportunity to sort of get in, break further forward, they've always blown it, really. What's really weird about Everton, for my mind, is they've spent so much money. You know, they've bought all these players. But then when you look at the actual squad at the moment, on the bench is full of kids. He's only got like a core of 12 or 13, 14 players who he trusts. So maybe 2 or 3 of those are out and the team's a lot weaker. But you're absolutely right. They've had so many opportunities this season to actually kind of push themselves forward. That must be infuriating Carlo Ancelotti as a manager. He's used to being in that top part, top 3 or 4 of the table, not scrubbing around mid-table. So he must be very sort of infuriated by the whole situation. I think they're moving in the right direction as a club, and especially under Ancelotti, and they had a good summer last year when they bought some of the players they brought in. But they've still got an awful long way to go to be that top 4 club they want to be.
Has that lack of depth in the squad been their downfall this season, do you think, John?
I think it has for a lot of teams, and I think that's where Manchester City have shown, because they have that strength in depth, that they've made so many changes, not even enforced at times. Sterling hasn't been playing, whereas you can see how it affected Liverpool with 2 or 3 players missing, and it's affected everybody. And it's really just been an inconsistent season for everybody else, Everton included. So I don't think Everton will necessarily be as inconsistent as anyone else. Liverpool had an opportunity to beat Leeds to go into the top 4, and then Leeds equalised. So I think between now and then we'll see a lot of chopping and changing.
A real positive for Everton heading into this match is they should have Dominic Calvert-Lewin back fit. How much have they missed him?
Oh, hugely, I think, really. I mean, I think he's worked incredibly hard this season. I think it's taken an awful lot out of him. He's been their focal point. You know, obviously I really like Richarlison as well, but Calvert-Lewin just gives them more definition to their attack. Very athletic player, works extremely hard. So I think, he's definitely been, their main man, as it were. And I think without him, they're not been anywhere near the same sort of force. Obviously, James as well has been sort of in and out and very effective at times. But I think Calvert-Lewin, I think there was a game, I can't remember who it was recently, where they played without him, and you just didn't feel they really believed they could even win this game, and they were almost like playing for a draw without him. So obviously with him coming back into it, it's a huge difference.
Well, if you look at, and I've mentioned losing big players for Liverpool, and it affects the whole team. Calvert-Lewin does, because of course when he plays, and as much as he may score goals and he does a lot of the unseen work, you see the best of Richarlison, Sigurdsson, James, and then you think they're great players. And in fact, in many respects, people think they're probably better than Calvert-Lewin in terms of their prestige and their profile. But then when he plays, he gives Richarlison something extra. It's been fantastic.
You mentioned the signings. One of the big signings, Doucouré. They haven't won when he's missed a game in the league this season. He's so important to that team too.
Incredible, I mean, I think it was interesting at Watford because he obviously was trying to get out of there for a couple of years. We thought at one stage he might even go to Paris Saint-Germain. Obviously he wanted to go to Everton in the end, and then he had a poor season, I think, at the end at Watford. Not he was ever going to sort of, kick on and be the player he can be. But I think you see, I mean, he's a little bit like N'Golo Kante. He's almost like 2 players, isn't he? I mean, he gets around the pitch so much, you almost like, he has that energy and that athleticism that really, it's hard to replicate, with one other player coming in. So I think Tom Davies has done well at times, but he's not Doucouré, he's not the same sort of level of player. So I mean, the amount of work he gets through is, I liken him quite a lot to Kante. He's probably more forward-thinking than Kante, but in terms of what he gets around the pitch, he's a similar player.
And when they were doing well at the start of the season, himself and Alan in midfield were the reason why. Because with all due respect, when you have James in the team, you need players like that.
Yeah.
Because you're not going to get much from him. And they were really doing well. Alan got injured, he got injured, he lost a bit of form, and that's really when they dipped out.
Yeah, and he's still not available for this game tonight. Hopefully he'll be back soon for Everton. A player who you mentioned already, John, who has actually impressed this season has been Sigurdsson. He scored 2 goals against Tottenham in the last game. What is it about his game that's really helped this Everton team this season?
Well, he's had to adapt his game slightly, because before James came in, he was the number 10, the playmaker, everything went through him. James came in, and of course, if you're going to play James and himself, one of them has to contribute defensively and more in a supplementary role, and that's what he isn't necessarily good at. Whereas here you can see him being as a number 10, getting forward, and now he has combined the two to really become a better player in terms of what he can give Everton. Because before, he was playing the James role. When James is in there, he really has to adapt his game slightly, and he's managed to do that.
Yeah. No wins in the last 5 Premier League matches for Everton, though. Their inconsistencies this season must be so frustrating for the fans because, as we've already mentioned, at the start of the season, it looked so promising for them.
A lot of Everton fans have been really frustrated, I think, not just with the results, but the performances. It's not just that they've not won games. I just don't think they've played very well. And I think that's what they found quite infuriating, because at the start of the season, that was at the first game when they won away at Tottenham Hotspur. They were fantastic.
Yeah, very good.
And they had a great start to the season. And obviously, as John says, Alan was incredibly important. And that's why I think some of those injuries, the players who came in all made a difference. And at some stage or other during the season, those players have been out. And I think the players who come in to replace them haven't stepped up. That's been the difference really there. And I think, going back to the point I made before, I'm not quite sure how a club can have spent so much money and not have the backup needed when some of those first team players aren't there. But I think talking to people around Everton, they're more frustrated with the performances almost than the results. I think because they've just been so flat at times. There's been games where almost like they've been quite hard watch, actually, haven't they? Really, some of the Everton games haven't been that entertaining, and that's not what you associate with Carlo Ancelotti, is it? And he's so used to watching his teams being quite entertaining, front foot, attacking teams. He wants to win games, and obviously I'm sure he wants to do all of that. But at times it's almost like you're thinking, I'm not sure I've got the players here to be able to do that.
Do you think that's what it's down to, that lack of entertainment?
I think if you look at this season, apart from Manchester City didn't start off particularly well, so they were inconsistent. So apart from themselves and Manchester United, and interestingly Leicester, everyone else has been inconsistent. Tottenham at times, when they beat Manchester United early on, and then you look at Liverpool at times, and everybody's been inconsistent. So it's just been a funny season, and that is why everyone, even if you're 6th or 7th, has to have hope they can actually get up there. So I don't want to be too critical on Everton or any of the other teams, because it's been an inconsistent season for virtually everybody, apart from Manchester United, Leicester, and Manchester City.
But if you're a team like Everton and you look at a team like West Ham who've taken that opportunity, you must be frustrated that you think, well, we're better than West Ham. We should be doing what they're doing.
But this is where you look at the season and you then think, while some teams we expect to do well are not doing well, and then a team like West Ham and Aston Villa are doing well. This is the inconsistency, because they've been inconsistent in the fact that they're playing well. Because last year they nearly got relegated, both of them, and you look at them now, and this is just the way the season has come.
So,
no.
Tottenham, Liverpool.
I say obviously there are a lot of people frustrated with Everton, but that frustration is on a different level with Arsenal, isn't it? I mean, that is just the most infuriating team in the Premier League.
The Europa League's so important for them now, isn't it?
It's all. Arteta said it already. It's all or nothing. And he's not expecting them to get a European place through the Premier League. I mean, they have to win. They have to win the Europa League.
And this game against Everton is even more difficult. No Aubameyang, no Lacazette.
Yeah.
I think this season they've been better without Aubameyang. I do think they've been better without him. I think it's been a very difficult season for Aubameyang for a number of reasons. Obviously now he's got malaria, but I was at the game on Boxing Day when they played Chelsea, and it felt like that was the kind of, if he didn't get something out of that game, it was a real crisis time. And he put in Smith Rowe, he put in Saka, and he put in Martinelli. And they looked a better team. Now you can't depend on those players going forward all the time, but they've just better. They were a better team, and I think Aubameyang. I mean, it's a difficult one to say this, but I did say this quite early on. There's a danger they've got another Mesut Ozil situation with Aubameyang. He's got this huge, and it's not their fault on this one. They got the contract that he wanted at the start of this season, but has he really earned that since then? Really, has he really? And I don't want to be too harsh on him, but. He's got to be their main player, their captain, their leader. Turns up late for the North London derby. I mean, come on. What's the example that to set to to Smith Rowe and Saka and all these young. You can see why Arteta left him out, and I feel disappointed that he's not been the player he needs to be for Arsenal this season. And then as a club as a whole, a team as a whole, where do you start with them? It's almost like they need a bit of a clear out. But how do you do that?
Yeah. No, I agree with you 100%. I think that when you have a player like that who dominates the team completely, who is not necessarily... Messi can dominate Barcelona because you know they like him, he's given 100%, he's a real team player, he doesn't sulk. Whereas when he hasn't played, and you look at Smith Rowe, you look at Saka, even when Pepe, and he's not there because he dominates the team so much that everything has to go through him. And if everything goes through him and he's scoring hat-tricks and winning and playing well, that's fine. But if he's being a bit inconsistent, but everything still has to go through him. So I agree, they have looked better without him. And the fact that, you know, Smith Rowe and Saka and people like that are there, I think Lacazette will be a big miss for them, because I think he's taking on added pressure off the team by his quality added to those youngsters. So I think he'll be a bigger miss in this game.
You saw that lead he took in the Slavia Prague Europa League game, where he obviously took the knee, and you know he was very up for the game, determined, and he was a real leader on the pitch for them that day. And there's that kind of strange thing, 'cause I know Lacazette and Aubameyang get on really well on a personal level. They don't seem to have much chemistry on the pitch.
Lacazette seems to play better when Aubameyang is not playing. Because he even dominates Lacazette, who's a very, very good player, and it's all about him. So I think Lacazette will be a bigger miss against Everton. But Everton are inconsistent, so who knows? Maybe they'll go
Everyone's inconsistent, John. And when you talk about that leadership, those young players have often referenced Lacazette as the one who they do look up to in that team for a bit of guidance as well. So he will be a really big miss. So who are they going to play without him? Do you think they'll go for Martinelli, Jason, or do you think they'll go for Nketiah?
I'd really like them to go for Martinelli. I think he's a terrific player, Martinelli. He's super quick, you know, he's very direct, you know, positive player. When he's come on as substitutes, I think he's been very good. Nketiah's a great finisher, but I think Martinelli gives you a bit more all-round game, and I just kind of prefer his game. I think he's been a bit unlucky not to play more often anyway this season. I know he's had injuries, but I think he's been a bit unfortunate.
You know, when you're the big cat in the dressing room, the leader like you were, you know, most of your clubs, talk about young players looking up to people like yourself. You know, just give us an insight. Do they come up to you? Do they ask for advice, or do you see them on the training pitch and you offer them advice?
No, it's the way that you actually treat them, because it's about not just inspiring them, but for them to see that you feel for them. And if they make mistakes, you don't throw your hands up in the air, and you don't sulk. And if they don't pass to you, you don't insist on them passing to you all the time. Because by the time Roger McKinney's tendon, I'm playing in midfield with Robbie Fowler McManaman, it wasn't worth them passing to me anyway. But, you know, I let them do what they do, and I didn't feel, that I should be the one doing that. I allowed them to take over, and I still supported them. Whereas if you're a player who wants everything to come through you, even when you're not playing well or not being able to do it, that could impact negatively on them.
OK, let's get a quick prediction from you both then for this one. Friday night football, Arsenal-Everton.
I'm going to go a boring 1-1.
Oh, Jason. What about you?
Well, you know, I would have thought Arsenal are going to win, but of course I've got to go back up to Liverpool with my brother-in-law, surrounded by Evertonians. Who, if I say Everton are going to lose to Real Madrid or anybody, you know, I get a lot of sticks. So you can never say Everton are going to lose. So I'm going to go for a draw as well.
A draw as well.
Just to keep safe.
Well, let's hope it's not a boring draw, as Jason said. An entertaining draw we'll take. Yeah. All right, let's move on next to a match that you know very well, John Barnes. It is Liverpool against